Soldier boy up in this, oh, whammy, crank it, whammy, roll. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have no idea what's going on with my nose. I have a massive scab on it. I've tried to cover it up the best I can, but it just looks like I got in a fight. No, in a fight. I just woke up with it one morning. Maybe I'm being haunted. Oh. So today I found some spooky dooky creepy weepy stories on the internet, and I'm gonna read them out to you. This is something I have kind of wanted to start doing occasionally on my channel for a little while now, because they're some of my favourite videos and I like to think you enjoy them and that you get a little bit of a chill from them. What was that? That was the scariest part of this video. Anyway, they're all quite short stories and I'm probably gonna cue the spooky music in now. Feel free to pause the video if you like, grab a snack and a hot drink and settle in to get your spook on. Yeah, this is really cold. I regret my actions. So the first story on our little list for today is from Kitty Purry 83, and that is The Man in the Bunny Costume. When I was younger, I used to live by the woods and could see a cemetery from my back porch. One Easter, I remember waking up and seeing the Easter Bunny, one of those terrifying costumes. And what really gets me is I remember smelling the wet hay. When I woke up, I didn't tell anyone, but there was an extra Easter egg in my house that my parents didn't hide. Years later, when I was in high school, I asked my parents if they ever dressed up like the Easter Bunny and came into our room. They said they would never go through so much trouble. Then my younger sister, who I shared a bed bunk with when this happened, said she remembers when the Easter Bunny came into our room and made a remark about the hay smell. Oh my god, this is horrific. I was terrified that we both remembered seeing a person dressed as a bunny in our room. To make it even stranger, I told the friends I sat with at lunch what happened. One of the girls was my neighbour across the street. She told me one Easter a long time ago, she looked out her window during the night and saw the Easter Bunny standing in her driveway. I had chills. To this day, I'm terrified of people in rabbit costumes. Oh my word. Oh, that literally gave me chills up and down my spine. That's horrible. Oh, I don't know why I'm getting so freaked out about a costume. Oh, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Oh, I hope that's not real actually, because if that's real, then that's just the worst thing in the world. The next story is by Excited for Nothing, and it's called The Ghost Babysitter. Already I'm on edge. When my niece was really young, she was about... I'll start that again because I read that she was a bouncer and I don't think that's right. When my niece was really young, she was in a bouncer at my sister's house, like the things the babies bounce at. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength now. She was in a bouncer at my sister's house and I was babysitting. I'd left her to go to the kitchen to grab some water. My sister's chocolate labs were probably sniffing and licking her head, because I could hear her giggling like she was having a blast. She means Labradors. That took me a second to clock onto that. I hadn't noticed how cold it had gotten. Then I heard it, a loud wooden snap, like a thick piece of wood had been snapped in half suddenly or a tree was knocked over. I ran into the room and what I saw and smelled freaked me out. The dogs were huddled in the corner whimpering. My niece was just staring at the ceiling with wide eyes, and it was cold and smelled like Stetson. What's Stetson? I'm totally killing the freaky vibe. What's Stetson? I've got to look at that. Because I just think of cowboys and I don't know if I'm supposed to be thinking of cowboys. Yeehaw! I took my niece and we decided to go to a different room. When my sister finally came home, I told her what happened. She just rolled her eyes and said, "That's Hugh." I was confused. She said Hugh was the previous owner of the house who had died 10 years before his wife sold it. She said he likes to follow my niece around and you can tell it's him because the dogs freak, it gets cold and smells like cheap cologne. I don't believe in that shit. I do believe that feeling you get in your gut when something doesn't feel right. That's horrible. They do say that dogs and animals in general have like a sixth sense when it comes to that kind of thing. Also, I really don't like the idea of staying in a house where someone previously died. Like, I know you have a house that's over like a century old. It's probably inevitable that something bad has probably happened in it, but I don't know, it just weirds me out. Like, I wouldn't want to know. I wouldn't want to know. I'd like to just live in denial. The next story is by Crazy Lions, and it's called Stranger in the House. In college, I would go home every other weekend to work at the job I had since high school. I would drive directly from campus after my last class on Friday to my job, which is about an hour, and after my shift was done, I would go back to my parents' house, which was out in the middle of nowhere. My parents weren't yet home, and when I got back from work, they would often spend their Friday and Saturday evenings drinking like they were the ones in college. Parenting. So the house was dark, and since it was mid-fall, so was the yard, save for the yard light. I pulled into my normal parking spot, got out of the car, and then turned to open the back door of my car seat and get my backpack out of the back seat. That's when I noticed that the bathroom light was on. Was that light on when I pulled up? It must have been, right? As I was contemplating the light and reaching for my backpack, there was suddenly a very angry-looking old woman standing in the window staring at me. We're not talking resting bitch face here either. She was pissed off at me, and I knew it. We stood there staring at each other for a good 10 seconds when my parents pulled into the driveway and distracted me from my stare down with the woman in the bathroom. By the time I turned back, the light was still on, but the woman was gone. What the hell? That's horrible. Is there a follow-up to that anywhere? Who was the woman? So was it a person? Was it a ghost? What? Maybe we'll never know. Either way, that was freaky. I didn't like that. We'll do a story by Greenlink12 called The Phantom Hairdryer, because that's the most amazing title I've seen ever. I was in my sophomore year of high school. Here is the thing. I don't get the different American high school years. Why are the men fresh? Why are the moors sopho? I don't get it. I was in my sophomore year of high school. I would usually get ready and then wait for my mother to drive me to school. While she was getting ready, I was just kind of hanging out in the bathroom with her while she was putting on makeup and curling her hair. She looked a little frazzled, and I asked if everything was okay. She told me about a weird occurrence the night before. She told me that she'd been woken up around 2 o'clock by a strange noise. It wasn't super loud, but it was pretty constant. My dad wasn't woken up by it, though it's not surprising as he sleeps like a log. Anyway, she starts looking for the source of the noise. First checking the bathroom attached to their room, but there isn't anything in there. Ooh, an ensuite, they're fancy. Next she walks out into the hall and hears the noise from the bathroom nearby. When she walks in, she sees a hairdryer plugged in and turned on, just sitting in the middle of the bath mat on the floor. She thinks it's strange, but there are 4 kids living in the house, and she thought maybe someone had sleepwalked and turned it on. Whatever. She unplugs it and puts it away. She goes back to bed and eventually falls asleep. That's so weird. Why would anyone do that? Like, I don't know many kids that would play with a hairdryer. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Also, what kind of ghost would even do that? Of all the mischief, this ghost was like, you know what, we'll really get him. You know what, we'll really get him. Barry the ghost. Go get that hairdryer, plug it into the mains, we'll scarp her. About an hour later, she wakes up again and hears the same noise. She's kind of pissed off and goes to check it out again, except now the noise is from downstairs. She tracks it down into the guest bathroom in the main entry hall. My parents' house has like 4 bathrooms. She opens the door and again, there's a hairdryer turned on, laying in the middle of the floor. She's freaked out by this point, but she unplugs it and puts it away. She didn't get a great night's sleep after that. So she's telling me this story, and as she comes to the conclusion, we both just freeze and turn our heads into the walk-in closet of her bathroom. As soon as we look in there, the entire light on the ceiling shatters. Not the light bulb, but the glass cover. It shatters, sending shards of glass everywhere. We both freak and get the heck out. We didn't know what to make of it, but we haven't really had any experiences before or since, and none of my family have experienced anything either. I wasn't really freaked out up until the glass shattered on the light, because it got angry. It got angry, that ghost got angry. I didn't like them calling the ghost out about its hairdryer fetish. We'll do a story by Jade Oracle, and that's called This Is Why the Basement is Locked. My mother was having dinner at a friend's house. It was a small old cottage that's been around for 100 years. I have a hair in my eye, I have a hair in my eye. This is the real horror story. She tries to find the bathroom and pulls on a door that's locked. My friend sees and says, sorry, that goes to the basement, the bathroom's over there. Thinking it's odd, my mother asks why the basement door is locked. It's always locked. In fact, I don't even have a key for it. The real estate agent advised me not to go down there as it's not been upgraded like the rest of the cottage. It's a little more than a root cellar. Fast forward a few weeks, when my mother, who works for the police department's community division, is working on a project about the history of the police department in the town. An old man comes in with news clippings about various community events, as well as a news clipping from the 50s about a gruesome murder. My mum was a bit taken aback. "Sorry, I forgot those clippings were in here too." "No, I know this address. It's my friend's house. What happened there?" "Oh," says the old man. "Well, that used to be my mother's house. She'd been dating this man who was cruel to her, beat her horribly. She tried again and again to break it off with him, but he'd always come back. Finally, my aunt moved in with us, and my mother finally broke up with him." He starts getting emotional. "Then one night he broke in and tied my mother, aunt, sister and brother up in the basement. He shot them all in front of my mother. Then he shot her and killed himself, leaving a note that she would never leave him again. I was away at college." He started to sob. "And that is how my mother's friend learned she has a haunted quadruple murder-suicide scene in her basement. She moved out a year later." If that was me, I would be suing that real estate agent like no tomorrow. They definitely have to let you know if something like that happened there before. I'm sure they do. That's just so freaky. Oh, what a horrible way to find out. And they'd been living in that house that whole time, just not knowing that was down there. Horrible. Right, we'll do one more, and this is a long one. It's by user Drew Sparrow, and it's called "Two Little Girls Were Dancing in My Bedroom." Already, I absolutely hate this. My fiance and I rent a house together, and we live alone. About 2 years ago, my fiance and I were lying in bed. It was actually pretty late in the morning, 10:30 or 11 a.m. or so. I'd been awake for about 10 or 15 minutes, and my fiance was just waking up. We lied there, talking softly about whether or not we should get up or try to go back to sleep for a bit, since he had the first half of the day off work, and it might be nice to catch up on sleep since we'd had a busy couple of days. He was lying on his back, staring up at the ceiling, and I was on my right side, facing him, with my hand on his chest while we talked. In that position, I had my back to our bedroom door, which was maybe 8 or 9 foot away from the bed behind me. Suddenly, an odd feeling came over the room. Seriously, it felt like the air in the room was suddenly either sucked out or made very, very heavy, and it almost felt like I was underwater or gravity changed, and the room seemed to almost feel like it was tilting to the side. It felt like the air in the room was pressing down on top of my body, while at the same time slowing down time, making me dizzy and loopy. My ears were popping. Okay, that's weird. So it's like an actual physical feeling. That's super weird. I keep thinking I see something out the corner of my eye because I'm paranoid, but it's just my hair. Well, I thought it was just me feeling this, and for a moment I wondered if I was having a blood pressure drop. I get those sometimes, though I still wasn't quite sure what it felt like. But my fiancé said, in a very frightened voice that sounded like he couldn't breathe very well, and like he couldn't get out the words without struggling, "Do you feel that too? What's happening?" And that was when I knew something odd and scary was going on, because he was feeling the exact same thing. I tried to speak, but my speech actually came out kind of slurred, and I had to force the words out of my mouth to say, "I don't know. I can't move." He said, "I can't either," and I saw him trying to turn over onto his side and trying to raise his arm up. He just kept saying, "What's happening? What's happening?" I tried to raise my arm up too, and found that I couldn't. Again, it was like being underwater in an intensely pressurized room. I started trying to push myself up to see if I could sit up. I couldn't do it. It was just too heavy. Then, we both heard the doorknob of our bedroom door turning. It was turning over and over again, almost like someone was trying to come in, but they weren't jiggling it or trying to open the door. It was actually turning in a rhythm. It was turning back and forth, in a rhythm at about the same tempo as a metronome, like a beat to a song. It was very deliberate. We were both terrified and we froze. The first thought in my mind was that someone had broken in, though I couldn't figure out why they would turn the doorknob back and forth in a deliberate rhythm, especially because our bedroom door has no lock on it. They could just open it and walk right in. We couldn't move. That weird heavy gravity feeling that was holding us down still would not allow us to move. But I was trying to, and I could feel my fiancé trying to as well. All I was able to do was turn my head very slowly and look over my shoulder at the doorknob and watch it turning. I could see it. Then we both heard it, singing. 2 children's voices, what sounded like a pair of young girls, started singing a song that I could not make out most of the lyrics to. And the only clear lyrics that I could make out was the very last word at the end of the sentence. Dancing. So let me clarify what I'm trying to describe. These two young girls' voices were singing an almost nursery rhyme type song outside our bedroom door while turning our bedroom doorknob back and forth to match the tempo of what they're singing. The doorknob is going as these little girls' voices are singing. Something, 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 dancing. Something, 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 dancing. That was just my attempt at that song. You're welcome. Put a SoundCloud link down below. And the doorknob would turn with each word they sang, keeping perfect rhythm. I couldn't make out nearly any of the other words of this song they were singing, except for the word dancing at the very end of each stanza. And they were singing it in a way that was kind of playful and taunting. Maybe, for instance, kind of like two little girls would do it if they were teasing an older sibling, or their mum or dad, or by coming up to a room they're in, shaking the door and singing at them, just to tease. The song almost sounded made up, the way kids sometimes sing little playful made-up songs to be silly, just trying to give you a feel as to how this sounded. It also sounded like they were laughing, or trying not to giggle while doing it. So, as this is all going on, and I'm watching the doorknob turn as these voices sing at us, and near the end of the song, I turn my head in slow motion back to my fiancé to see if he's singing and hearing the same thing I am, and I can now see he has finally managed to be able to turn his head, and he was watching the doorknob too, and the look on his face was just... I'll never forget it. His eyes were as big as dinner plates. I've never seen him that shocked or scared. His face was just white. And then the song ended. It was short, just 2 stanzas. Then just as soon as it started, the doorknob just stopped turning on the very last word of the song. Dancing. And all at once, that heavy, dizzy weight that had been holding us down and making it so hard to move and breathe just lifted. Just went away, just like that. Suddenly, we could move again, and the air and gravity felt like normal. It seriously was all over from start to finish in about 10 seconds. My fiancé sat up and goes, "What the hell just happened?" And he jumped over me and out of the bed, raced to the door and yanked it open. Nothing was there. We don't have a hallway. It's a small house and our bedroom opens right into the living room, and he just looks out into it and goes, "Nobody's out there." I got up and ran over to him and looked for myself. No one there. House empty, and our 2 cats were both backed up against the far wall of the living room, hissing and growling. They'd either heard it too, or even seen what it did, and from the spot right in front of our bedroom door, all the way through the living room, through the dining room, and out to the kitchen door, there was this trail of heat. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just a trail of heat. The air just felt hot and oily, and you could almost see a haze, like fog, trailing from our bedroom door through the house to the kitchen door. We checked both the front door and the kitchen door. Locked. Both locked. We both sat back down on the bed, and we were just shaking. We kept asking each other, did that really just happen? We both heard the same thing, right? And yeah, we both felt the air pressure holding us down in bed and making us move in slow motion, and we both heard and saw the bedroom doorknob moving back and forth in rhythm, and then both heard the 2 little girls singing that song. So I know it wasn't a hallucination or anything. The only difference was that my fiancé understood a couple more of the lyrics of what they were singing, though not many. He said it sounded something like, "And we come in a-dancing," or "And we go a-dancing." It was just so unsettling and spooky. And to be honest, the way the girls' voices sounded, they didn't sound mean or creepy. They seriously sounded like 2 real little girls who were just having fun and teasing us. It didn't feel or sound malevolent or anything. It still creeped us out, just that it happened though. We were both shaken up for the rest of the day, and I begged him not to leave for work that afternoon, but he had to. The whole time he was at work, I kept every light in the house on, along with both the TVs in the living room and our bedroom. It's never happened again, but it still creeps us both out just talking about it. I would not stay in that house after that happened. Are you kidding me? I would be like, no, I'm going around my parents. I'm gonna go stay with a friend. You go off to work, that's fine. I will take my cat and I am going. It's so strange that they just heard it though. The title gives you the impression that the girls were actually like in the middle of their room and they could see them. I have no explanation for that one. I really don't. If you guys think you have an explanation for any of these stories, please put it in the comments down below. The one I think actually freaked me out the most was the Easter Bunny one at the very beginning. I just hate the idea of those goddamn Easter Bunny costumes. Though that probably has the easiest explanation, that it's just some creep sneaking into people's bedrooms to give them Easter eggs. But everything else is just a little bit weird. But let me know what you thought about any of the stories I just read out. Do you like this kind of video? Would you like to see more story narrations? Or even viewer submissions? If you wanted to send any spooky stories in, I'd be more than happy to read them and do them on this channel because I love a good bit of spook. I said that really strangely. And I love watching videos like this myself, so I definitely love to do more. Also, I do need your opinions on something. New subscribers might not actually be aware of this. For the past 2 years running, which wow, it has really been that long, that's insane. I have auditioned for the National Youth Theatre because, you know, I've got to try and get my career somewhere. And I have filmed an advice/experience video story time for it both years running, and I wanted to know if you guys actually wanted me to do that for this year, because generally the process kind of stayed the same and I don't really know how much more I have to add. Plus I won't have the results till May, and I just didn't know whether you really wanted to see it or not. If you do, then let me know. I'm running out of battery, so I'm gonna rush through this. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed this kind of video, what you thought. I really want to know your honest opinions. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more of my weird stuff. Be sure to check out my last video or any of the videos in the description down below, and if you let me know if you've got my notifications turned on, you will get a shout out at the end of next week's video. Again, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I love you all to the moon and back, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I hate myself so much. I went to go get a cup of tea, right? Literally after I just finished filming this, I saw a face in the window opposite where I was standing, and I absolutely freaked myself out. I was like, oh my god, the bunny man's come to get me. And it turned out it was just my reflection. Absolute calamity. This is why you would die first in the Hunger Games, you idiot. Do you remember when it first started?